They called it the war to end all wars, but they were wrong. They said it could never happen again, but it did, on a scale the world had never seen before. 2 world wars, millions dead, empires collapsed, entire cities reduced to rubble, and the course of human history forever changed. But how did the world plunge into such destruction? Not once, but twice. What led to these devastating wars? Who were the leaders, the soldiers, and the civilians caught in the storm of history? And most importantly, what lessons have we learned? This is the story of World War I and World War II, the battles, the betrayals, the heroes, and the horrors that defined the 20th century. Let's begin. World War I, the war to end all wars, 1914 to 1918, the spark that ignited a fire. It all began on June 28, 1914, in Sarajevo, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria by a Serbian nationalist set off a chain reaction. Within weeks, Europe was at war. The world was divided into 2 alliances, the Allies, Britain, France, Russia, and later the United States. The Central Powers, Germany, Austria, Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. What followed was a war unlike any before. Trench warfare, a nightmare of mud and blood. By late 1914, the war had ground to a halt. Soldiers dug thousands of miles of trenches across Western Europe. Life in the trenches was brutal. Mud, rats, disease, and constant artillery bombardment. Battles like Verdun and the Somme claimed millions of lives, but resulted in little territorial gain. A new kind of war had begun, one of attrition, where victory depended on who could endure the most suffering. The war beyond Europe. World War I wasn't just fought in Europe. Battles raged in the Middle East, Africa, and the Pacific. New weapons, tanks, poison gas, and machine guns transformed the battlefield. Airplanes and submarines introduced new dimensions to warfare. The United States enters the war. In 1917, Germany resumed unrestricted submarine warfare, sinking American ships. The Zimmermann telegram, in which Germany tried to persuade Mexico to join the war against the US, further angered America. In April 1917, the United States declared war on Germany, tipping the balance in favor of the Allies. The end of World War I. By 1918, Germany was exhausted. With American forces arriving, the Allies launched a final offensive. On November 11, 1918, an armistice was signed. The war was over. The Treaty of Versailles, a seed for future conflict. In 1919, world leaders gathered in Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles placed harsh penalties on Germany, demanding massive reparations and limiting its military. Many Germans felt humiliated, a resentment that would later fuel the rise of Adolf Hitler. The League of Nations was formed to prevent future wars, but without US support, it was weak. The world hoped for peace, but instead the stage was set for an even greater conflict.